like to thank you for being here for the Zoetis VBMA Business Etiquette Dinner. I'd like to have a special thanks to Dr. Mark Stetter. He's here, and he's the dean of our college. I don't know if any of you guys know that or not. Pam Jones, the director of advancement, and Dr. Gretchen Delcom. She is one of our faculty members here. And of course, Dr. Tracy Hanna from Zoetis. She'll be here giving a presentation on business etiquette. She's a regional field veterinarian for Zoetis, and she covers 5 different regions. I was going to try to remember them all. And now that I'm up here talking in front of everyone, I know I'm not going to. I'll let her introduce herself, and thank you guys for being here, and welcome.
So this is where you all get to practice eating while I talk, quietly. Do you need me to use the mic for the video? Okay. I don't really need a mic, as you might have noticed. As Shireen said, my name is Dr. Tracy Hanna. I'm the Regional Strategic Veterinarian for Zoetis. Just to give you guys a little bit of background on where I come from and how I came to be here. I'm from Oregon originally. I did my undergrad at Cornell. I went to veterinary school at the University College Dublin in Ireland. I graduated in 2001. I spent 11 years in private practice, of which most of which was in referral emergency ICU. Not a place where we're very politically correct a lot of the time. I joined Zoetis in 2012 as what's called a professional services veterinarian, working mainly with general practices. And they moved me from Northern California, where I was working, to Arizona, where I now reside in Phoenix. I cover all the large specialty hospitals in Southern California and Arizona, and I liaise with Colorado State, Missouri, and Iowa State. So I spend a lot of time on the plane. As I said to Dr. Stetter when we were first putting this presentation together, I'm probably the least qualified person to talk about etiquette. So I just want you all to know that I did not grow up going to cotillion and taking elocution lessons. So I am hoping that we can have a good discussion. I don't want this to be me up here speaking and sitting in silence. I've definitely invited Pam in the back from the dean's office to chime in where she feels she has input. Certainly Dr. Stetter, to make this kind of fun. Obviously, it's a topic where it's not some super serious medical discussion that we're having. So I would invite lots of comments and feedback about what we're talking about, and certainly sharing your experiences. And hopefully you guys will get some good tips as you are interning, looking at jobs, looking at doing internships and residencies and things like that. And hopefully there'll be some things in here that will help you moving forward in your life. So without a further delay, we will get started. Just to give you an idea of what we're going to talk about, why do we care? Who cares if you have good table manners or if you dress right or how you sound? Why is this important? Why it's important to dress appropriately for the workplace and what that looks like depending on what your workplace might be. Certainly in veterinary medicine, we've got people in large animal and mixed animal practice that are definitely not putting on a suit and tie to go to work. We have people in small animal practice where we're going to have everything from going to work in scrubs to going to work in business casual. And then we have things like industry events. If you're in livestock, you may be working with producers where you're going to be at more formal events. What does that look like? We'll go over the 4 types of business attire and give some guidelines for what those are. Talk about the golden mean. I found the 10 crimes of business dining online. So we are going to discuss what they are. Talk a little bit about what to say at your interview, and maybe I can editorialize on what not to say since I do public speaking for a living now. And then just to summarize. So again, I would invite any commentary or comments along the way. Business etiquette. Why do I care? I am who I am. I'm a good doctor. What difference does it make? Business etiquette sets a standard for everyone to be treated respectfully and display good manners regardless of where they're coming from. It sets a tone to have a productive and successful workplace. professional manners actually help company profitability. I'm sure all of you can think of a situation you've been in where a counter person or a sales clerk has been really rude or unprofessional with you, and you've walked out of that store or out of that Starbucks or whatever with a really bad taste in your mouth about what just happened because the person was really rude to you. That definitely has an effect on small business. And I hear this a lot from small practitioners, small animal practitioners, when they're talking about hiring front desk staff and people that have really poor phone manners, and how can we hire people that will have appropriate etiquette and be really professional with the clients. So it really can help profitability. It reflects confidence, and it gives people the impression that you have it together, for lack of a better word. It also helps prevent misunderstandings or perception of harassment. For those of you that are going to go into corporate medicine, maybe you're going to work for a VCA or a Banfield, they are very concerned about potential HR issues. And using proper etiquette is a way to avoid any gray area that might be misconstrued as potentially something that involves HR. And having worked in now a large multinational corporation for several years, I have watched a few coworkers run afoul of HR over various indiscretions, and it's not anywhere you want to be. So that's a really good reason to always think about your work manners versus how you are at home. Mastering these skills is not just something that top-level managers or the practice owner needs to do. There are really distinct codes of etiquette with employees at any workplace, whether you're on the phone, whether you're dealing with customers in the field. You're going to have very, very distinct methods in which you're going to conduct yourself. And company-level business etiquette, so etiquette between peers, really looks the same, regardless of how things are. And this is where I can say, working in small animal practice, we sometimes forget that we're at work. Your coworkers are your coworkers. That's great if they're also friends or you are friendly with them, but you need to remember that first of all, that is a place of work. That is not to say that you can't have fun or everything has to be super serious all the time at work, but especially younger vets, I see you get in the practice and you start making the mistake of going out drinking with the techs on a Friday night after a really hard day at work. And that is a situation where it's really easy for the lines to get blurred. And now you're not the person in a position of authority asking them to do things for you as a doctor to technician. When you come into work on Monday, you're their drinking buddy from the bar. And that can really complicate those work relationships. So I'm certainly not saying your techs can't be your friends. I'm just saying that these are things that you need to be aware of when you're out in the real world. And especially when you're younger, you're going to be the same age as your techs, or maybe even younger than some of them. So these are easy traps to fall into. Now, etiquette between us as employees or as the doctor and our customers is going to look really different. We often have customers, especially I can tell you working in emergency medicine, customers coming from a very emotionally stressful place often do not feel the need to have any etiquette whatsoever. I've been sworn at. I've had people throw things at me. I've had to call the police and have people escorted out. I've certainly had plenty of clients under the influence of alcohol or drugs in my clinic. Obviously, that's not an ideal business etiquette situation, but we are in a profession where it's a service-related industry and we're all on some level dealing with the public, unless you're going to go into research and spend your time in a lab, in which case, God bless you, and I'm jealous. So those are things to be aware of, and I guess the most important thing to remember is that just because they're being rude and inappropriate does not mean you are rude and inappropriate back. It's sometimes you got to take a deep breath and rise above, and then you say really mean things later. Understanding business etiquette is going to facilitate communication and increase productivity. The end. Bringing managers together, or in this case, maybe doctors. So maybe we're not talking about managers. Maybe we're talking about, for instance, I work in Southern California where there's a lot of Banfield hospitals, and they pull together in what are called pods where hospitals that are geographically relatively close together will get together, say quarterly, and do continuing education, talk about best practices. And these are places where business etiquette can really help innovate. They can share ideas, you can share best practices, and those are things that those doctors can take back to their individual practices and maybe implement and make things better. And that's not unique to Banfield. There's plenty of local VMA organizations that are going to get together and regionally have CE events where you're going to be seeing a lot of your colleagues that work at different practices in the area. And this is a real opportunity to network. Try to resist the urge to go with your one buddy that you work with and sit in the corner and drink the free wine. It's a really good opportunity to meet your colleagues and network. And don't forget that that's what these events are really for. And if you can master that ability to network, it will really benefit you in your career going forward. It also just gives us a very common understanding of what the workplace is going to look like in terms of what's appropriate behavior. You may have people that come from very diverse cultural backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, different countries. Maybe you're working in a large city where you've got people that are from different parts of the country. They're all coming together. If everybody is minding their manners, so to speak, there's no misunderstandings. Just makes everything easier. Any comments about that? I know, right? Oh my gosh, when you Google animals in business clothes, the greatest images come up. I mean, a piglet and a tie, like that's so fantastic. Veterinary medicine is going to have a unique code of etiquette. It's not the same as if you were working as an accountant or if you were an attorney or if you were even in human medicine. We have a different etiquette code, but it's important to sort of understand what that looks like. And obviously, even within our profession, small animal etiquette may be different than equine etiquette, which is going to be different than mixed animal practice. And so you really have to kind of understand what's appropriate for the group that you're in. Yes? Right. And that's a great example. I know, for instance, the Zoetis sales reps. We are a business casual organization. So when we're out in the world representing Zoetis, we're typically in business casual. But business casual on the livestock side is typically a polo shirt and khakis or Carhartts or something like that. We do try to stay away from blue jeans, but you get the idea. That would probably be considered too casual if you were on the small animal side. But imagine what the sales rep would look like showing up in a suit and tie to the mixed animal practice in Montana. Where was the vet that worked? Yeah. Imagine if your Zoetis rep at your practice in Montana walked in a suit and tie. You'd be like, what the heck is this guy doing here? You know? Yeah. So again, there's different levels of what's appropriate for the area. If you're in small animal practice, you're going to be more formal than if you're in one of the other avenues of practice. Managers' communication styles tend to become less pronounced as they focus within the local business culture. So I can tell you right now that my business etiquette manners with you here today are a little bit different than my business etiquette manners when I am picking up a relief shift at the ER. And we are dealing with blood and guts and trauma and people screaming. It doesn't mean I completely forget my manners, but things are just a little bit different. You guys follow me? And we are really in personality-driven business. We are. People are coming to us, one, because of our level of expertise, but also because we have developed a rapport with our clients for whatever reason. So we can often really face challenges when we are trying to shoehorn ourselves into some sort of model of what's appropriate, because we were all raised differently. We all have different comfort levels with things like styles of dress and ways of speaking and all of that sort of stuff. And it is difficult for people to behave in a way that is not their default style. So this is an area where there's probably opportunity for all of us, regardless of what our default style is, to work on our strengths and weaknesses, or at least be aware of what they are. I am a potty mouth. So one of the things I have to work really hard on when I am dealing with clients, whether it's in the ER or whether it's in my role as zoetist, is not cussing. Because if you know me personally, you will know that it just flows out of my mouth like water. So we all have different strengths and weaknesses. My weakness is I curse like a sailor, and it's something that I bite my tongue often to keep the nasty words from coming out. I've always been kind of a potty mouth. It's bad. It's really not ladylike. You shouldn't cuss. You definitely should never cuss in any sort of business setting ever. Surgery may be acceptable. Any comments about just the general merits of having good manners before we move forward? Okay. Why is what you wear important? It absolutely is the first impression that someone sees. If you don't think that this is true, go to the mall on a Saturday morning and people watch for a couple hours. And just take note of the snap judgments you make about people as they walk by wearing whatever they're wearing. It's huge. And if you talk to people in industry about what they look for when they are hiring, whether it's sales reps or whether it's other people, first is their ability to communicate, whether it's public speaking or whether it's one-on-one conversations. And second is appropriate attire. And I hate to tell you, ladies, it's more important for us because we have more ways in which we can fail. The way someone dresses really affects the perception of them, and so it's very important to maintain a standard of dress that gives the impression you want it to give, if you're following me. And a company that wants to maintain a certain image is probably going to have a dress code. And even in this day of personal freedoms being taken very seriously, there are legal precedents for companies setting a particular dress code. And depending on how strict the company is that you work for, there are areas where you can be disciplined or even terminated if you are not following the appropriate dress code. Now, again, veterinary medicine a little more lax than a lot of other industries, but it's still there. I would dare any of you to go into clinics in flip-flops and see what happens, because you won't be wearing them for very long. And of course, we all have that right to our individual self-expression, and the way we dress is part of that. But you've got to be aware that the way you're dressing is sending a message. And as someone who's a Gen Xer, I think everyone in my generation has a tattoo somewhere. That doesn't mean it needs to be visible when I'm at a job interview. So I always cringe when I see veterinary students that have neck tattoos, tattoos on their hands, tattoos on the back of their neck here, and multiple facial piercings. That's your right to self-expression, but you have to be aware that there is a certain cohort of doctors or professional organizations that when you go looking for a job is not going to think that that's appropriate. And even if you are their best candidate, you're going to get dropped down a peg because you've got 4 rings in your face. So it's just something to be aware of. If you have facial piercings and you're going to an interview, it might be a good idea for you to take them out at the interview until you get a feel for what that practice is like. If you got tattoos, they probably don't need to be visible at the job interview. And if you were not lucky enough to put them somewhere where you can hide them, then I have sympathy for you. because tattoo removal hurts. Okay, 4 types of business attire. Business formal. You are dressing to impress. This is your Sunday best. It is not coming out very often, but when it is coming out, you should pull out all the stops. For men, this is dark-colored suits, ties, jackets, cufflinks. So you need to get a French-style shirt so you can put cufflinks in it. Buttoned all the way up. Shoes are shined. Linen pocket square. Like you're going to your wedding. Women, suits that what's a dress and a suit jacket. Whatever you're wearing underneath needs to completely cover your cleavage. If you're wearing a skirt, your skirt needs to be no shorter than directly above your knee. I know it's funny because my father's an attorney, and when I was a teenager, Law and Order was on all the time. And I don't know if you know this, but there's really strict dress codes for what people can wear to court. And let's just say that the women on Law and Order were not following the dress code. You should wear hosiery. I know pantyhose have kind of gone out of fashion, but honestly, if you're in business formal, you need to wear hosiery. And you need to wear low-heeled pumps with a closed toe. Sometimes it can be hard. Like the peep toes were all in for a while, and it was difficult to actually find shoes that have a closed toe. But the closed toe is really business formal. Yes. Yes. This is pretty much considered, if you are talking about business formal, and we're talking formal now, you got to wear pantyhose. Sorry. Yeah, still considered business formal. They don't have to be nude. You can wear black hose or whatever matches your outfit. But it's really, or you wear a pantsuit and then your legs are covered and then you don't have to wear pantyhose. We'll go with the Hillary Clinton model, right? Yes. You can think it's bull, but it's still business formal. The question was, when would you be wearing business formal as veterinarians? You may have a formal luncheon to attend. There may be an industry dinner that's more formal. There may be certain gala events. For those of you that are working in equine practice, you're going to have a lot of opportunities to get all dressed up and go to the ball. And if you're not wearing cocktail attire, this is what you should be wearing. Not a ton of opportunities. You're definitely not wearing business formal to the office on Tuesday. But it's important to know, in case you ever get an invitation and they mention business formal or cocktail attire. And again, I'm just going to editorialize. If you, as a woman, are going to a work event where you're supposed to wear cocktail attire, you are not going to the club. You are going to work. So yes, wear a cocktail dress. Wear a cocktail dress that you would wear in front of grandma. You get my drift? Okay, business professional. Yes. Pam. Yeah, and actually, I noticed I don't mind. I hope you don't mind if I single you out, but we have what good looks like right here. Would you just mind coming up to the front and showing everybody your shoes? You don't have to say anything, but here we have. They're nicely polished. They're not scuffed up. It's a low heel, closed toe, neutral color. Perfect. Perfect. Perfect shoes. Yes. Comfort is key. Yes. Now that I singled you out. There was a comment. Yes. Yeah, I would totally agree. It, yes. Yes. And they need to match each other. And for men, it does not cost a whole lot to get a suit tailored. And in fact, if you go to a more upscale store like a Dillard's or a Nordstrom's, usually the tailoring is free. So even if you buy the suit off the rack, you can have it tailored to fit for free, which makes it worth the $300 or $400 you're going to spend on the suit to get it to fit you really nicely. And the difference between a suit off the rack and that's tailored and a suit off the rack that's not is huge. Dr. Stetter, would you have a comment on that as a suit wearer? And I would just add to that as being brand new to the profession, it's probably in your best interest for a long and successful career that you not alienate a large number of potential employers right out of the gate. Just my 2 cents. I don't know about you guys, but I had 6 figures in student loans coming out of school, and I couldn't afford to be super picky about who was going to hire me. Just a little side note. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay, so remember we went to business formal. Now we're at business professional. So this is basically business formal dialed down a notch. Conservative clothing that displays a professional demeanor. Similar to business formal, not quite as fancy. So men, still blazer or suit jacket, still button down shirt, still suit pants, maybe plus or minus the tie. Maybe no pocket square. Women, skirt, pantsuit, again, same low-heeled closed-toed shoes that we had on before, or perhaps dress, shirt, blouse, sweater. Again, you got to cover up the girls, okay? If you have been genetically gifted in that area, God bless you, and I am jealous, but this is not the place to let them loose. It just isn't. Yes. This is going to vary a little bit with climate. For instance, I live in Arizona, where, as you might know, it is pretty much the center of the sun 4 months a year. So, yes, you still need to adhere to some of the basic rules, but nobody's wearing a suit jacket in the middle of summer. It's just too darn hot. And while it might look unprofessional to not have a suit jacket on, it looks really unprofessional if you've sweated through your shirt. So that is different. Here we are in Colorado. If it's in the middle of a blizzard and you're going to come into the clinic in snow boots, I think that's probably appropriate if you're getting in and out of the car, because sometimes climate is dictating what we're wearing. Or you're going to bring your, if it's, say it's an event you're going to go to, you're going to wear your snow boots in and then change your shoes once you get in the building, right? Those sorts of things. So yes, I think there is a little bit of wiggle for seasonal attire within reason. Business casual. This means you don't have to wear a suit. This does not mean wearing jeans. Where's my jeans wearer? Or jeans, non-jeans wearer? Yes. Right. We're going to get to that. That's the next. So business casual. Women, collared shirts, blouse, sweater, dress pants, something like this. Again, who said banana? Banana Republic, my go-to for dress pants. Skirts, dress shoes or boots. Depending on climate, open-toed shoes might be okay. We see a lot of open-toed shoes and sandal-y things in California and Arizona because it's hot and the weather's nice. Yeah. Toenails done, yes. And again, I know this is one of those things that's unfair to women because men don't have to get a pedi, but men are also not wearing their, peep toe sandals to work. So, and obviously none of you are going to the clinic with your feet exposed, right? It's not happening. So we're talking about a business dinner, work event, that sort of thing. Because given what we do for a living, you need to have shoes on, yes. There are a lot of practices that want their associates, particularly in small animal, to wear business casual to work, which I always laugh at because what do? I mean, we just get disgusting, right? You wear your business casual clothes and then they get blood and poop and all sorts of stuff on them. But especially if you work in any kind of, like if any of you are going to do rotating internships in a referral hospital, a lot of time when you are on those referral services, they're going to expect you to be in business casual. So there is actually a lot of this. This is probably the most common thing. And again, I guess the biggest thing I would emphasize is make sure your clothes fit well, are modest. Remember what you're doing. You're leaning over, you're bending down, you're getting up and down off the floor. So make sure whatever you're wearing is going to be amenable for you to still do all of that and not expose yourself at work. Again, men just have it easier because you can throw on a polo shirt and a pair of khakis and you're good. Women have a lot more areas in which they can fail. So just be mindful of that. I wish it wasn't that way, trust me, but it is. No tie required, polo shirt, other collared shirt, sweater. Probably dress shoes. If we're talking business casual, you're probably still wearing your nice loafers. You're probably not wearing sneakers. Then we have small business casual. Now is when we get into the gray area, and a lot of this is going to depend on the culture of where you are working. So maybe scrubs are appropriate for your job. I know working in emergency medicine, most of us wore scrubs. Usually there was a set scrub color, or you had company issue scrubs that had the company's logo on the lapel so that the doctors could be easily singled out because they're all wearing the same color. You just want to avoid things that are really stained, things that are really wrinkled, and anything that's overly revealing. And again, I know I keep coming back to this, but it is a much bigger problem than you would think. And when I first floated this topic out, and I got to give Shireen credit because she brought this up to me. And since putting this presentation together, I've mentioned it to several people, intern coordinators, practice managers, other people in faculty at different veterinary schools, and they have all, to a person, said this is a hugely important topic that they think is really a problem within their student body or within their intern classes. And a lot of it has to do with overly revealing clothing. So I'm just saying. So examples might be tailored jeans or khakis. Again, depending on your work environment, jeans might be appropriate. It's going to really depend on what the, is it a mixed practice? Is it a small animal practice? What's the prevailing culture there? And the easiest way to figure that out is go spend a day at the practice and see what everybody else is wearing. And if you're overdressed for your day at the practice, that's okay. You'd rather be overdressed than underdressed. White coats, and I say white coat ? Because I am a dirt magnet, and there is nothing that looks more disgusting than a dirty white coat, and it is pretty much impossible for me personally to keep a white coat clean. So I got to the point where I would, if it was practice culture that you wore a white coat in front of clients, put on the white coat to talk to the clients and then immediately take the white coat off, because that was the only way it was going to stay white. And actually, I think that's a good thing. Sometimes you want to stay warm, but if they can't see your arms, you can always wear a long shirt under your scrubs. Depending on the environment, nice t-shirts might be okay, particularly if you're in rural practice, mixed animal practice. But again, nothing with your favorite band on it, or stains, or holes, or your favorite sports team. I'm talking about nice tailored t-shirts. Men, I know you got the muscles, but let's try to avoid this medium, okay? Stick with something that's appropriate and not too tight. Same goes for the ladies. For women, flats are certainly acceptable here. I'm wearing clogs right now. Those are always a great choice. I personally think Crocs are not acceptable in any setting, but I might be in the minority. Nice flats of some sort, loafers, whatever. Again, making sure they're closed-toed and bearing in mind that you're probably going to be on your feet all day, so you want them to be comfortable. Okay, the bottom line. If you're dressing for an interview or a business event, ask yourself, would you wear this to church? Would you wear it in front of your grandmother? If someone wearing what you are wearing wanted a job from you, would you hire them? What would you think? And if you are questioning at all, dress up and dress more conservatively than you might otherwise. Yes? The dog hair, well, make good friends with the lint roller, because the dog hair situation is real. That's why khakis are a good choice, because they kind of hide everything, unless it's a white dog. But yeah, the other thing I always did was, now granted, I usually wore scrubs because I worked in the ER, but I always kept a change of clothes at the office, because sometimes you get the code brown and you gotta deal, Don't forget socks and underwear, because sometimes it soaks in. I know, we're all eating. I can just share with you that I brought this topic up to the intern coordinator for a large referral and specialty hospital in Southern California, and she shared with me that a prospective intern came into her office for an interview in shorts and flip-flops and put her feet on the desk. And of course, she did not get the internship. And the response that I've gotten when I've shared that with people is, well, obviously she didn't want the job. And I think, well, she showed up for the interview, so maybe she should have been participating in this discussion. And it's a common problem. Pretty much every time I have this conversation with someone in private practice, they mention that they have one intern, one doctor, one extern that's been rotating through from the local veterinary school that is a problem, and that we need to address it. And again, unfortunately, it's almost always female. So just bear that in mind. Yes. Usually it falls to whoever is in HR to deal with it, because it is a very delicate issue. It's probably the owner or whoever's making the hiring and firing decisions that's having the discussion. Because again, it is a big deal. You know, the last thing you want is to get fired from your first job because all your shirts were too low cut. Right? That's silly. And don't wear flip-flops to the office. Again, obvious. Any other, we're done with dress. We're going to move on to table manners. Yes. Pretty. Always. Even if it's not visible, because depending on how the scrubs are cut, they may not even see the shirt. Yeah. I think so, because, you know, you might have to change them. And so I think it's important to always wear a t-shirt or something under your scrubs. Plus, I don't know about you guys, but I got cold, so I needed the extra layer. Because everything's air conditioned to 45 degrees. Any questions, comments? Any of you horribly offended by the content of what not to wear? Yeah. Again, I would err on the side of being more formal. If it's truly an interview, they're not actually expecting you to jump in and help. Yes. Yeah. And I would say in general, if they're going to, usually the working interview is the second interview. So they're going to meet with you in person and talk to you. And then if they like what they hear, they'll probably invite you back to do a half day or something like that as a working interview. And honestly, you should relish that, because you don't know if you want to work there or not until you've worked there. I don't think you can ever go wrong with sort of conservative business casual attire. Even if you're overdressed, you can always put your scrubs in the car. And if they decide they want to have a working component, you can say, okay, I have a scrub suit with me. I'll go change my clothes. I just think you're much better off setting a good professional impression, even if you're overdressed, than the other way. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. Again, this points to the comfortable shoes and having the girls covered up so that when you lean over, they're still covered up. Yes, okay. Dining etiquette, the ultimate test. You know, the other thing, again, dining is so funny. We're all drinking, so we're going to talk about alcohol too. Dining, again, depending on where you're working, there may be a little less formal, but I'm thinking more of the business dinner. And as somebody now who basically does business dinners for a living, it's interesting to observe. The golden mean. So this is from Cornell Business School. So these are B school students, and they call the mean of etiquette is the goal of having proper dining etiquette is that you call as little attention to yourself as possible, which means you are not overly sloppy, you are not overly fussy, you are sort of right in the middle of everybody. Do not put your phone on the table. I am probably going to say this 15 or 20 more times. The place for your phone when you're at an interview is in the car. If it is on your person, it needs to be not visible and not audible, and you do not look at it until you are out of the interview. Do not put your phone on the table. I don't care if your mother is dying in the hospital. Do not put your phone on the table. If you're going for an interview over a meal, eat a little something before you get there so that you are not starving and you can focus on putting your best foot forward and not thinking, oh my goodness, if I don't eat this bread roll, I'm going to die. Okay? I always joke that some of this is like first date etiquette too, right? You're going on a first date with somebody you really like, and so you're going to eat a little bit ahead of time because you don't want them to think that you're just a pig when you get to the table. Maybe this is all chick stuff. I don't know. Mind your posture. Don't slouch over at the table. Sit up straight. Put both your feet on the floor. Put your hands in your lap. Like your first grade teacher said, your posture is actually important. Posture is one of those nonverbal cues that people pick up. And so the way that you sit actually says a lot about your self-esteem, about your composure, about all of those things. People that sit very hunched forward really give an impression that they lack confidence. So sit up straight with your shoulders back like you are there for a reason. Know the culture of the company that you're going into, and this goes back to what Dean Stutter said. So it's so easy these days to be able to dig around online, or maybe you have a friend that worked there, or you know something about the practice. Very few of us are just cold sending out resumes unless we're moving to a totally exotic location for some reason. So try to know as much as you can about the culture of the place you're going into before you get there. That'll give you a little bit better idea of how to dress and what to expect at the interview. The other thing I would make you aware of is that, especially in larger industry organizations, or if you're dealing with a corporation that has actual HR people that are doing the hiring, one of the things that they train interviewers to do is get you very comfortable so that you will be much more informal and relaxed. And as they put it in the industry, they can dig out the crazy because they want to know who you really are and not who you are as your interview best. So they are going to try to put you at ease so that they're going to find out who they're really dealing with and if your brand of crazy is something that they can tolerate. So be aware of that. Don't get lulled into this comfort zone because the person that's interviewing you is so friendly and we just hit it off and then we started having this personal discussion about whatever and blah. Yeah, there's a method to that. That's part of the program. I'm not saying don't be friendly back or don't share details that you feel are appropriate about your life. I'm just saying that be aware that that is an interview tactic that is probably being practiced on you. Okay, Ready for the top 10? I feel like David Letterman. Crimes and misdemeanors. Don't speak too loudly, which sometimes people do when they get nervous. And don't monopolize the conversation. It's not all about you. One of the, I think, most intelligent things that you can do at an interview is ask good questions. And they don't necessarily all have to be professional related questions. Ask the person that's interviewing you how they got into their role. If it's the practice owner, ask them where they went to school and what did their career trajectory look like. You can, say you want to own a practice someday. It doesn't have to be true. Try to come up with some of those questions beforehand so that you've got kind of that back pocket question. We're going to talk about that at the end when we get to the interview section about having a back pocket question. But I think a lot of times we fall into this trap of I need to impress them, so I need to tell them everything that every award that I've ever received in my entire life from my first grade spelling bee on up. And what you need to focus on is having a conversation, which means they are providing you some information too. Hey, look, don't put your cell phone on the table. I know this sounds really, I'm like, who's got their phone on the table? I know this sounds really like, of course, I would never go to an interview and I would never do that. But again, every hospital I go into that has intern classes, it is the biggest problem that they deal with because everybody carries their phone as a calculator. Oh, I need to calculate this drug dosage. Oh, look, a Facebook notification. Oh, look, somebody sent me a Snapchat. Oh, look, it's a text message. And the next thing you know, it's 20 minutes later, and there they are on their phone. So it's a huge issue. Huge. Put your phone away. Don't look at it. Don't bring it in to the restaurant unless you have to. Okay? Same goes with purses, keys, sunglasses, wallets, stuff on the table. No. Use a purse hook, put it on your chair, put it under your chair. If you're a guy and you have sunglasses and all that stuff, you can put it under your chair. It doesn't go on the table. All that does is just distract from you having a conversation with the person in front of you. So keep all that extraneous stuff somewhere else. Do not put your elbows on the table. It's just like your mama taught you. It's funny, I was going through this and I thought, my mom would have slapped me if I would have done any of these things. Your hands on your lap unless you're actively eating. You do not put your elbows on the table. Do not chew with food in your mouth. Or excuse me, do not talk with food in your mouth. Do not talk with food in your mouth and don't chew with your mouth open. Again, these are like things we all should have learned in first grade, but it seems that some of us didn't. So, and again, they might ask you a question when you've just taken a bite of food. It's okay to, chew and swallow and then answer. Try not to eat too quickly or too slowly. Again, remember the golden mean. The idea is that your table manners do not call attention to you in any way. And if you are the first one done or the last person picking at your food while you're having a conversation, it's going to draw attention. And again, if you're hungry, eat something before you go to the interview so that you're not starving when you're at the interview, and then you won't wolf all your food down. Do not reach across the table. If you need the butter, the salt, the whatever, ask for it to be passed to you. Again, some of you are probably thinking, this was every Sunday dinner at my house, but we didn't all grow up that way. So that's why it's important to remember. Yes. Typically, you ask the person that's closest to the item that you want, and then it may have to go around the table to get to you, but that's better than... What a perfect opportunity to find it out. Right? Hey, would you be able to pass the salt? Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, and your role in this practice is what? And now you've opened up this whole door of conversation, right? I'm just saying, networking. It's all about networking. Again, we talked about posture earlier, but slouching, sitting sprawled out at the table, right? You're not at the, Buffalo Wild Wings with your buddies watching the game. So you're not sitting like this, in your burger. Put both your feet on the floor or sit like a lady with your legs crossed, whatever it is, but have good posture. It's not considered appropriate to push the plate away when you're done. It's actually cross your silverware on top of the plate and put your napkin on it. Usually if it's a small table, there's not a lot of room for you to push your plate away. Straight out of Emily Post, kids. Okay, does everybody know the B and D? Your bread's on the left, your drink's on the right. So especially at a circular table where there's multiple glasses, and if you go to a nice restaurant where you've got wine glasses and water glasses and cocktail glasses, just remember your pod is on the right. Your bread plate is on the left. If you can't remember, hopefully you all know the alphabet. When you're using silverware, you work from the outside in. Pick up the small forks first. If you accidentally drop a utensil on the floor, it's not considered appropriate etiquette to reach down and pick it up. You signal the waiter, you ask for another one. I didn't actually know that. I don't make a habit of dropping silverware, but I didn't know that. Your napkin goes in your lap, nowhere else. You need to use your napkin if it's provided to you. So it doesn't get tucked in, doesn't go, goes on your lap. Don't order food that you're not familiar with. Okay? So let's say they want to go to sushi and you're not a sushi eater. Okay? Get the noodles. Don't try to order weird food that you either don't know how to eat or you don't know if you're going to like, because now you're stuck with it. So just order stuff that's safe. Don't order the most expensive thing on the menu. You don't have to order the cheapest thing on the menu, but just because they're interviewing you and picking up the bill does not mean it's time for lobster tails. Okay? Remember, the idea is we don't call attention to ourselves. We stay somewhere in the middle. For shared items like appetizers, it's totally not appropriate for you to use your personal silverware to eat off of the shared plates. You need to, all right, are you all rolling your eyes like you should all know this stuff? But you would be amazed. I actually, the last time I gave this talk, I had some people like, not so much that they didn't know it, but they thought, God, do I do that? I think I do that. You've got an appetizer plate typically or a bread plate. Ask for it to be passed to you. Use the serving spoon or whatever it is to put some on your plate and eat it off of your plate. If you want more, get it back, do it again. You don't put your fork in the communal plate and eat. Don't order messy food. Again, I go back to you're kind of on a first date, right? So don't order the ribs. Like, if you wouldn't eat it in front of the person that you really like, that you're going out with for the first time, maybe don't eat it on your job interview. So try to order stuff that you're not going to get all over your face or all over your clothes. Yes, accidents happen, but you can also prevent them by eating food that is going to be manageable for you. Maybe not the boiled crawfish. Yeah, I mean, if you're working in Louisiana and they want to take you to the crawfish boil, you're sort of, but then you're all going to be in bibs, right? Again, this goes back to doing a little bit of research about the place that you want to work. So I always say, don't order anything you wouldn't eat on a first date. If you eat dinner rolls, if you're somebody that the bread comes around or the bread basket comes around, the proper etiquette is to break a bite-sized piece off of the bread roll or the piece of bread, butter it, and eat it. You don't pick up the roll and take a bite out of it. The other thing is, it's not considered polite to cut up all your food at once and then eat it. You're not a first grader where mommy has come and cut up your food. You cut the piece off that you intend to eat, and then you eat it, and then you cut another piece. Yes. Yeah, so the fork holding thing is tricky because it's different in different countries. So, for instance, the English and the Irish, I'll demonstrate. They hold their forks upside down like this. Yes, and they'll push things on, and then when they eat, and how they don't get it all over themselves, I don't know, because they turn their fork upside down and eat, and then like I said, I'd be wearing dinner if I tried to eat that way. So I agree. I mean, we're not Neanderthals where we're stabbing our food. You know, hopefully mama taught you how to use a fork, but there are going to be some regional differences. So while I think it's important to have some table manners, there's probably some wiggle room there. Try to avoid chopsticks unless you're really proficient at them. Because again, it's fraught, right? I don't think sushi's a great plan, but everybody likes sushi. So sometimes, because then you're like, am I picking it up with the chopsticks or am I picking it up with my fingers? How am I going to negotiate this? Okay. What about the booze? Yeah, so this gets a little bit tricky. And this is what I would say. If you're at a one-on-one interview, I would not order alcohol, even if your interviewer orders alcohol. Make whatever excuse you need to make. They might be testing you. They want to see what sort of judgment you have. And so the alcohol thing might be a test. And again, they're trying to bring out the crazy. And if they can get you 2 or 3 drinks deep and that brings out the crazy, then they have a pretty good assessment of who they're dealing with. Yes.
Kind of a weird situation that I found myself in a couple of times where I don't really like to drink, but feel judged when I don't if everyone else is having a cocktail.
I don't think you need to feel judged.
It's happened where they ask why I wouldn't want to, and that's really weird. It wasn't actually in Ireland, but it wasn't a professional event, so that might be cultural, but...
Yeah, well, the Irish, I mean, come on. So I just wouldn't do it. You know, you can drink when you get home. I get that you're nervous, but that's part of the reason why it's probably a good idea for you not to drink, because you're probably going to drink more quickly than you would otherwise because you're nervous. And if you're a lightweight and they order you a cocktail and you down it because you're nervous, now you're a little bit buzzed up and you're trying to conduct yourself in a professional way. So again, I just in this particular circumstance would avoid it. Yes. You can say you have to drive. I always say that I'm on a diet. Oh, I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm taking the month sober because I got to lose 5 pounds, whatever. Yes. Yeah, and I would hope that in a professional setting that you don't have people pressuring you to drink. I mean, you're not at the bar with your friends, right? These people are interviewing you. So I would think if you say, no, thank you, that's good enough. If it's really, you feel really uncomfortable not drinking, you can always order a drink and not drink it. That's an option too, but then it's in front of you and then it makes it a little bit more difficult to not drink it. Yes. Well, we're going to talk about kind of that situation, which I think is a little bit different than the one-on-one interview. I hope your one-on-one interviewer is not ordering a whole bottle of wine. Yes. That would be my interview, but...
I think this kind of goes back to what you said about knowing what you want, and it's a mutual interview with regards to if they're all ordering and you're not comfortable with it and you feel that they're rushing, that's probably not somewhere you want to work, people you want to work with. Whereas I was at an interview where it was the owner and his wife and myself and my fiance, and everybody ordered a beer and we got a job offer, and it was like you should try to be aware of the situation and feeling it out. I definitely think I agree that that's the way to trend if you're not sure, is to go and know, but if that's also something that you're worried that somebody's not going to hire you because you have a beer, then maybe is that the culture you want to work in? I mean, this is Fort Collins, there's 73 microbreweries. It's a big cultural thing here as well, so know what you want with people you want to work with as well.
Again, we're kind of going over some individual circumstances. So that's more of a one-on-one interview situation that happens over a meal where I'd recommend that you don't drink. If you're at a group dinner, this sort of event, say, or you're at a VMA event or some other sort of group dinner, particularly one that might be sponsored by a pharmaceutical company, the alcohol is free. It's okay to order a drink. But what I will say is the caveat to that, it is never okay to be intoxicated at a work function. Ever. So if you want to have a drink, have a drink. Do not have 6. I know in America we have a culture where it's all easy and there's kind of the good old boy and let's go to the bar and, you know, everything gets conducted on the golf course or in the clubhouse after dinner, whatever. And I get all that, but I promise you somebody is always watching. And if you get drunk and out of control, somebody knows. And I will just say that this applies for your social media as well, because you are doing research on these companies and these businesses, and they are doing their research on you. And if you don't think that they can find your Instagram and your Facebook and all of that, you are wrong. And I thank God every day that I made all of my youthful indiscretions in the age before social media, so that all of my bad judgment exists only in the minds of the people that were there. But it is a huge issue. So if you've got questionable stuff on your social media accounts, I would take it down. I know that seems unfair and that's infringing on your personal life versus your professional life. Guess what? There's no such thing as a personal life anymore. Not if you're putting it on the internet. So, again, this goes back to the booze. Somebody's always watching. It's going to reflect badly on you if you get drunk at a work function. It just is. So, get drunk with your friends at home where no one can see you. Don't do it at work. Don't do it at a work event. Just remember, in business, your interview never ends. So you get the job, you're in the practice, all of that stuff, your interview is never over. Yes, we work in an industry that is notorious for at times being fairly unprofessional. That doesn't mean that has to be your reality. I can just tell you I worked the booth at Western States this year, and there's a lot of students that go to Western States. And there's a lot of free alcohol getting thrown around because we're in Vegas. Vegas! And I'm seeing vet students and new grads and people that are actively there looking for work roll into the Zoetis booth to see what free stuff we're giving away, reeking of alcohol in their sweatpants. Now, maybe they don't want a job with Zoetis, and it's a good thing. But you've got to think about that. When you go to a conference, when you go to any sort of function that's associated with you professionally, you're at work. You may not want to be at work, but you're at work, and you need to conduct yourself like you're at work. I know it sucks. I'm about to go to the VEX spring meeting in Cabo. I do not want to be at work in Cabo, but guess what? I'm at work. And if I'm going to get drunk on margaritas, I'm going to do it in my hotel room where no one can see me because I'm at work. Did you have a comment? You look like, no? Okay. Yeah. Pam? Any other comments about alcohol? I find it really disturbing that you're getting pressured. I feel like, as somebody who goes dry, I do sober January every year, and then this year I competed in the CrossFit Open, so I didn't drink for 3 months. And I drink alcohol, so it already sucks that I'm not drinking for 3 months, and then to have people bug me about it just makes it worse. Yeah, and also I have no idea what's going on with you personally. Maybe you are pregnant, maybe you're on medication, maybe you know, who knows. It's not really my place to say. And I would think that any place that wouldn't hire you because you didn't have a cocktail is not a place you want to work, personally. Any thoughts around dining, table manners, etc. before we move on? Yes. Social media. I don't worry about those as much. The bikini photo, you know, if you're on the beach with your buddies and you're taking a bikini photo, that's one thing than if you're posed seductively with your duck face. You know what I'm saying? Right. Or, for instance, you know, I'm very into wine. I have winery. There's winery in the family. And so there are a lot of pictures of me on my social media where there's a group of people and I have a wine glass in my hand. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm not doing a keg stand. You know what I'm saying? Or for instance, I'm a rabid college football fan. So there's a lot of my social media with me in some ridiculous outfit at a football game. I think in context that's fine. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to have a life. It just means you have to be conscious of that, at least if you have social media set so that outside folks can see it. Same goes with being really political, you know, it's great if you have really strong political views, but your open social media accounts, probably not the place to share that because, again, you don't know what the environment you're going into is. And okay, that's fine. If you will only work for someone who shares your political views, well, then it doesn't matter. But again, you're looking for work. So the idea is to be neutral and not call attention to yourself. I like your grandma filter. Yes. Yes. And there are a lot of privacy settings. So all your, you know, your undergarments don't all have to be hanging out for the world to see, right? I have an Instagram account. It's private. You can't see it unless I give you permission. Does that mean I can't post selfies with 47 hashtags on them? Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm not a big selfie taker anyway. So again, I'm not saying you're not allowed to have a life outside of your profession, because you are. But remember, we talked about veterinary medicine as a personality-driven profession. You are going to have clients coming to you because they want to see you personally, and they respect not only your expertise, but your personality. Same with potential employers. So it's just important. These are just important things to remember. All right, let's talk about the actual interview. Obviously, again, the situation that you're in is going to be a little bit different depending on what branch of veterinary medicine you're in. but these are just some general things. Use the formal title for whoever's interviewing you, Dr., Mr., Ms. It conveys respect. If they counter with their first name and say, please call me Susan, then great. Now you can call them Susan from the way forward. But I don't ever address, and I'm a doctor and I deal with doctors all day long. And I don't ever address any of the doctors that I interact with as anything but Dr. Smith until they ask me to call them by their first name, even though I'm a peer, because that is respectful. We've already covered this, but we're going to go over it again. Turn your cell phone off and get it off the table. Do you want the job or do you want to look at Twitter? Do we need to have any more discussion about this? Okay. Look your interviewer in the eye. I don't mean stare them down, but make eye contact. And look interested. Your nonverbals are very important. So again, proper posture, looking interested, not sitting with your arms crossed, head down, slumped over, not looking at the people. The idea is that you are open to whatever information they're going to provide you, and you are looking to provide information in return. If you're naturally very shy, you can practice your nonverbals. If you're a more shy or an introverted person, it is something that you're going to have to work on. It just is. Some of us are easier at talking to strangers than others. Keep your feet on the floor, I think, is the best thing I can say. It's a lot easier to have good posture if your feet are on the floor. If nothing else, it'll make you remember to think about your posture. If you remember that you have to keep your feet on the floor, then you'll be like, oh yeah, and I have to sit up, right? Use a firm handshake. You're not trying to break anybody's hand, but do not present your hand like you're one of the ladies from Downton Abbey, okay? This is 2016. Shake hands. Shake hands properly. Try to avoid non-words in your discussion. This is probably my biggest pet peeve because I deal with sales reps, and of course some of my younger sales reps are big on the non-words, especially when they get nervous. Like, so, don't do that. If you're not sure if you do that or not, because they are often unconscious tics, tape yourself and listen to yourself. I know every single one of you has a phone that can tape you, and you've got it in your pocket. So just find out what you do. You can also videotape yourself as a really easy way to look at your posture and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's hard to be natural when you know you're being videotaped, but you can practice. You can practice these skills as well as thinking about what you're going to say in the interview. These are all interview skills. Let your interviewer take the lead. It's not your job to monopolize the conversation. It is okay to have tiny bits of silence here and there. They probably have a direction that they want the interview to go in. If they take you down a very personal and informal road and they want your life story, tell them whatever you're comfortable telling them. Again, they are looking to identify the crazy. So your idea is to share as much as possible, and we'll just keep the crazy for another day. This is where I talked about having questions to ask, that it's not all about you. Having those back pocket questions is really important. Ask a question about the company. Ask a question about the person that's interviewing you. And it would be even more helpful if you were actually interested in the answer. For instance, I see you graduated from Colorado State. Who was your favorite professor? And they say, Professor Jones. And then you can say, oh, I loved Professor Jones too. And maybe that takes you off on a topic of conversation. Your website advertises that you perform stem cell therapy. Tell me about that. What kind of caseload are you looking at? Again, this is going to show them that you've done your homework, that you know something about the practice, and that you're interested in it. I realize that by definition, that means you actually have to do your homework, which I recommend that you do. Yes. There's nothing wrong with trying to get them know them personally, number one. And number two, they're headhunting you for a company, so you can certainly ask them about the company. You can ask them about exactly what positions they're hiring for. Do not step on somebody's sentence or interrupt them. I'll tell you right now, I have a potty mouth and I'm an interrupter. And I have worked really hard on not interrupting, which is not to say that I still never do it, but it is a flaw that a lot of people have. And if you are an interrupter, please be aware of it and try not to do it. The finishing other people's sentences is a pet peeve of mine. Dean Stutter, you're giggling. And you know what I'm talking about. You get 3/4 of the way into your sentence and the person you're talking to either says the end of the sentence with you or says it before you can say it. That drives me nuts. And you know what? It drives people that are interviewing you nuts too. So again, if that's something that you're aware that you do, try not to. It just gives the people that you're talking to the impression that what they're saying is not important to you, which is why I worked very hard on not being an interrupter. It is okay to take notes. You can take pencil or paper notes if you want to take notes about what they're saying. Do not use your phone to take notes. I carry an iPad with me. Sometimes I will say to someone I'm in a conversation with, I'm going to get my iPad and take some notes about whatever we're discussing, and that's usually fine. For one thing, you've told them what you're doing. You're not just pulling out your computer in the middle of a conversation and starting to type. And they also understand that you're actually interested. But again, I would not use the note-taking function on your phone. It's also great if you have business cards handy in case that comes up, or if you have a resume that you can keep handy, again, in case that comes up, so that you can present it if they need it, is really helpful. If they're interviewing you, you've probably already sent them your resume in some form, but having another copy of it never hurts. Have you ever heard the expression, if you're not early, you're late? You should be 15 minutes early. At a bare minimum, you should be on time. Under no circumstances should you be late. And please don't no-show for an interview. Even if you've decided you're going to take another job and it's all roses and sunshine, at least have the courtesy to call the people and say that you're not coming. Again, it seems like these things should be relatively simple, but I'm amazed at how many conversations I get into where people say that their associate interviewee didn't show up, or often their technician interview didn't show up. But it's just one of those things that it then conveys unprofessionalism. This is a very, very small world you guys are entering into. And you never know how people are connected. So it's a good idea not to make enemies right out of the gate by doing stuff like not showing up for your interviews. Yes.
I just wanted to emphasize that point. I read in some book about generational differences, how the younger generations, most of who would be in vet school now, would think being on time, like to the minute or maybe a minute before is appropriate. Like we said 7, at 6:59. And with previous jobs and just working with people that are a few generations older, it became very apparent to me that they'll say 7, and in their mind, they mean 6:45, and will expect you, and just like you said, will think less of you or be disappointed if you get there 1 minute before. And that was something that kind of boggled my mind at first, because I was like, but he said 7.
Right.
And he meant, or she meant, 6:45. So it is a very different, I mean, it's been studied, it's in books about generational understandings of those types of things.
And the other thing is you want to get there and have a couple minutes to compose yourself. You don't want to open the door and roll right into your interview. So if you get there a few minutes ahead of time, you have a chance to take a breath, you know, straighten your tie, comb your hair, whatever, put on your lip gloss, and roll in. The other thing I would say is that even if it becomes very apparent to you within the first couple of minutes that you do not want this job and would happen to run screaming from the building, You need to pretend that you want that job until the interview is over. The interview is not over until you are in your car driving away, which means you do not call your significant other from the front of the building and say, "Oh my God, this is the worst place ever. I would never work here." Because it is at that moment that the head technician will come out to smoke a cigarette. Okay? It sounds silly, but I'm telling you, all of these things have happened. So you are 100% on your professional best behavior until the building is in the rearview mirror. And then you can call your significant other and say, "Oh my God, I would never work there." Okay? Here we are again, just to tie this all together. Your interview is never over. It is not over at the office Christmas party. It is not over at Western States in Vegas. It is not over at the staff meeting. It is not over at the local VMA event. If you are in a situation where you are doing something related to veterinary medicine, you are at work. I know it sounds sort of, super type A, but trust me, it will benefit you in the long run if you just refrain from letting your hair down until you are in private with your friends and family. Just to briefly summarize, it's not rocket science. The goal is that interviewers remember the substance of your character and not your clothes or your table manners. And the classic rule of etiquette is that it isn't all about you, it's about your customer. And your customer might be a client that you're seeing in the clinic, or it might be your potential employer. But the point is that you are trying to impress that person. And your performance shouldn't hint to other people that it's all about you. This is why asking questions, this is why being open and being polite and making sure that the interview never ends is really, really important. And how you hold your fork and what you wear to the table really does matter. That's the end. That's all I have. Good luck. Any questions, commentary to talk about interviewing before we let you eat? All right, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. Please, feedback, good, bad, indifferent. Give to Shireen, give to the dean. I'm very open to hearing whatever you might think about this presentation in the interests of making it better for future groups of students. So enjoy your meal, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Hannah, so much. I think that was something we can all learn from. I think I definitely picked up a lot of things. I hope you guys did as well. Dean Sutter, would you like to say anything? All right. Thank you, guys. Enjoy.